Hey guys. Hello, what do you know?
Hey, Burdock, how's it going?
Hey, hello. How are we doing?
Well, we're trying to get a hold of the studio over there at Revolution. It's dead right now. It's not coming up online at all. So
I'm seeing the messages there.
do you want to still go ahead and do a broadcast through the Goldwater, or just?
Well, I can have them attempt to record. Yeah. Let me message this out. Just hold on one sec. Okay. All right, we'll get a response from them pretty quickly. We've got a new engineer, and I know Abby is there. So we'll find out. Standing by here.
Okay.
And if Dom is able to just do a record live already, yes, it's recording. So. Let's see if we can patch Dom in. And then I don't know how my audio is here. They just started jackhammering. How bad is that?
Sounds pretty good to me.
Okay, good. All right. Okay. All right, they're saying yes, they can record. Yes, sir. Okay, so right on. It's 10 o'clock. Let's start the show. We can put your custom bumper music in, and let's just count it down. And this is live right now, sir. So we are live right now. Take it away.
And welcome once again to the story behind the story. I'm your host, Dr. A. Truott. Yes, we are not simulcasting tonight with Revolution Radio. It seems like they're having some major technical difficulties at Studio B. I'm trying to put my phone and my emails off, so I'm sure there'll be a deluge of people saying, we can't get through. We understand that. But we're just going ahead with the show, and the content we had planned for tonight, we'll be going over.
With so many people now leading a sedentary indoor lifestyle, most are in a chronic state.
That was good. Works for me.
It's coming.
Oh, my goodness. Let's
Oh.
go ahead. We got Dominic on the line producing this. Dominic, we're just going to go ahead and do the show with the Goldwater.
No luck with Studio B. That was Studio A. No luck. That was false alarm. I don't think the Goldwater has to broadcast anything. I'll remove our dear Abe from here.
Well,
Another group. On
I'm going to click on this line, and here we go. We are. Oh, are we live, or are we Memorex? So I clicked on this new screen. Burdock is joining us. We are live. Yes, away we go. Welcome to Revolution Radio listeners. We had a apparent blackout of some sort. The studio was offline. Our great producer Dominic has been working feverishly, crazily to get us back on. So we're back online. Okay, thanks to Dominic. We have Philip on the line still. I guess we have Philip. We have Jim with the Goldwater. We have Major. And we have an airplane taking off, I guess.
Yeah, whoever just joined might want to mute their mic.
So that's a little better. Okay, very fantastic. Okay, wow, we have these things once in a while. I kind of just scratch my head sometimes. It happens more often than not that we have problems getting online, and yeah, we are live and we are broadcasting, simulcasting on both, right? The Goldwater Network and Revolution Radio Live. So hopefully everybody can hear me. All right, so we were just those of you that missed that we were talking about. I have Major Burdock from the Philippines and the Goldwater Network joining me. We talked about the revelation, and there's some interference coming in, but hello. Okay. I don't know if this is from the studio's end or somebody else's end, but the bottom line is we were discussing what was going on with in Little Rock, Arkansas. The intelligence report that I've just commented on that I feel is very reliable is that Donald Trump himself and key members of his team were seen in Little Rock, Arkansas, and the scuttlebutt is they were basically taking and putting away information that would be very, very harmful to the Clintons, and specifically Hillary Rodham and her connections with some shady dealings with the Rose Hill law firm. Now, again, mainstream media is not by any means talking about this one, and my sources are pretty accurate. I asked Major about if he'd heard of anything about this, and he had. So go ahead, fill us in on what you said, Major, and your thoughts and ideas about the story out of Little Rock.
Well, two angles of it. I mean, this all comes into a lot of research that's been going on, access to certain files that regarding the Rose Law Firm, regarding, and I mean, you're talking about the body count as well, but the destruction of papers, intimidation of witnesses, let's be honest, murder, and who's dipping their toe into these waters. And what we spoke about earlier, I referred to it as kind of a beehive, and anyone that's going to poke around in there is going to get stung. So why they're doing it, we don't know, but it's very interesting, and we're seeing it from a different angle because these are all stories that, for example, you can see on our series of the Goldwater, the Clinton body count. A lot of this has to do with this whole family of people that are, they're all attorneys and politicians, and if they're still alive, they're up to no good. So we're very interested in what's going on, and all of this is being brought up. There are Freedom of Information Act applications that are going out right now. I'm not sure if we're going to be doing any. That's some dangerous business. But we're certainly keeping our ear to the ground, and then also keeping an eye on a group called Judicial Watch.
Oh, yes.
They're definitely in, and certainly, let's be honest, they're certainly a right-leaning group. I think that they certainly support Trump, but they've been around longer than Trump has. So the group over there they're not new people, and for them to be going to such risk is it's certainly raising some eyebrows.
Indeed, and I say this because, again, when I talk about my work on the Clinton escapades and the Rose Hill law firm connections with Whitewater, et cetera, and then I'm doing this as a live talk show host, and I get this gentleman come forward who needs to be. He won't give his identity. He's scared to death, and this is saying something. This guy is an was an ex BYU defensive lineman. The guy he's Polynesian, 6'4" and 380 pounds. This guy's, he's got the beef. You know what I'm saying? And he was very much afraid for his life because he told me he was hired out of BYU to work for the LDS Church in the area of Temple Square as a night security guard, and of course he's big enough to be a bouncer anywhere. And he was so upset, being staunch LDS. Many Polynesian people resonate to the Mormon story of how their ancestry came to be, coming part of the so-called Lamanite bloodline, right? So he was shaken up when he was. He had his security earpiece in, was told as a checkpoint to watch for this entourage coming in. This was late at night. It was after midnight, he said. And there was a group of about a dozen people coming into the tunnels. Now, the Salt Lake Mormon Temple in Salt Lake City has a bunch of underground connecting tunnels that go quite a ways out with the east, north, south, and west. The western tunnels go out towards the Union Pacific Hub main railroad building there in downtown Salt Lake. Goes under the arena where the Jazz play basketball, that type of thing. So there's a lot of interconnected tunnels that have been there since the beginning of the Mormon experience in the 1850s. Okay, probably by all accounts and purposes, they were there well before the Mormons got there. So be that as it may, this guard said and he said, "I tell you, I'm not making this up. I got to tell you, here is Bill and Hillary and other high-level people of the DNC coming into the Salt Lake City Temple for some kind of ritual." He said this was during his watch, his late watch. They were in the temple from after midnight to about 3:30 in the morning. He could only imagine what was going on there, and this was not an isolated experience. So he wouldn't of course give his full name. He would only talk on the radio through a voice scrambler. So I mean, that's when you begin to really start to think that something very strange is going on in Oz. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's creepy. And I can't blame somebody for. I mean, look at what's going on with our privacy these days. You can't blame anyone for not wanting to reveal their own name, and unfortunately, that's part of it. And it's not just your privacy; it's a real threat these days. When you've got an active aggression, you've got people that are mainstream politicians that are Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi trying to incite violence. And I mean, who do you have right now that isn't extreme on one side or the other? There's nobody calling for, hey, everybody get their wits about them, calm down, just calm down. You don't have to start attacking people and throwing feces and camping out and creating biological hazards. And it's ridiculous. I mean, over here, we've got people that are threatening our writers and our editors. So that's what privacy, most of our people write under pseudonyms, and it's a matter of security. It's a matter of security for our families as well. and it's only going to get worse. We thought it would calm down after the election, but no. I mean, this is going to continue on. It's going to come into a fever pitch all the way through 2020, and no matter who wins, it's going to end up the same. It's like the Super Bowl in San Francisco or the World Series over there. No matter who wins, they're going to go in the streets and riot. People are going to get hurt. But this is more directed, and unfortunately, people are going to start dying because of it. And that's not the type of mentality or political environment that I think anyone wants. So, yeah, it's a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I gotta believe this is not by accident. This is all by scripted design. And we've had this discussion on the show with pundits on both sides of the aisle, Major, that concerning the so-called protocols of the wise men of Zion. I've had people say, well, those are known forgeries, they're known frauds. My response to that mindset is, well, that's a pretty doggone good forgery. I mean, it's pretty doggone accurate as it's been out there for all these years, all of these decades, probably even a century. If it's a forgery, good golly, it's pretty accurate forgery. I mean, it's pretty much following the script. You know what I'm saying? So the protocols of the wise men of Zion is to have the final war being a conflagration of principles, having basically people come for, again, like every other conflict, you think you're right, other people think you're wrong, and to the point becomes where blood gets shed and violence is the norm. That seems to be what's happening worldwide, whether it's the Egyptian Spring, the so-called uprising rebellion in Libya, which was nothing more than Israeli Mossad agents doing their dirty work there. I'm convinced of that one, and same with much of the Middle East. There's just these agents that just want to have war and bloodshed.
Yeah, especially in the case of Libya, and I've learned a lot from you about that. Going in and researching, because we're taught, oh wow, those people are just they're terrorists, and okay. I mean, there are some things about plastic explosives that you can't deny. There is some tie-in to what happened in Lockerbie, but as far as a form of government, looking at Libya, and the more research I did after hearing you talk over the last couple of years, wow. I've learned a lot about it, and it opens your eyes up and say, wow. And then the Clintons go in and steal their gold. That's outright theft. But it doesn't surprise me with the Clintons. So to say that other people aren't doing that, and people we don't have the names of aren't doing that, or groups of people, wow. Yeah. People need to do a lot more research, a lot more, because what they're getting fed right now on both sides is not correct. I don't know. Everybody should make up their own mind as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, you need to hear both sides of the story, and the problem is you really don't see any part of the story in the mainstream media. You just don't. It's not happening. They're not talking about what really went on in Libya. I highly recommend a couple of books. I've talked about this. There are people say, well, there should be more and more people being whistleblowers telling the story, and I keep saying that there is. I mean, come on, how much do you need? Victor Ostrovsky and his two books, by way of deception, The Making and Masking of a Mossad Officer, and by means of deception, his second book. These two books, I'm telling you, is just, oh my, it's hard to connect the dots. I mean, he talks about the Mossad operations against Libya and painting Muammar Gaddafi to be this madman and putting false information to the intelligence network they share with the CIA, and before you know it, Reagan and Bush and everybody else is like got the American people so brainwashed to think he's this corrupt dictator madman. But it's not true. This is a big thing of Ostrovsky's incredible book. He was the one that was there doing it online, and the deception is just stunning what he documents. Oh my heavens, when you read this and then you see the postscript, what Hillary did, what Crooked Hillary and her Jewish compadres did in Libya. Wow, you just say, why is America so completely dumbed down that they can't see it? You can't even get on a radio show and say anything negative at all about the nation of Israel, and you'll be painted a neo-Nazi skinhead, hater. And worse, if you're living in San Francisco and dare to drive a car around with Boycott Israel bumper stickers and wear Boycott Israel t-shirts, well, suddenly you're targeted for arrest and being held on $2 million bond in the case of Alex Studer. What can you say? What can you say, Major? It's George Orwell, man. So are you still with us, or do you if you have your Major, you still with us? There you go.
Yeah, I had a problem with my speakerphone there. Is everyone?
Yeah, you're back on. We can hear you fine.
Okay.
So yeah,
much better. Sorry about that.
So again, Ostrovsky's two books, By Way of Deception and by the Making of a Mossad Officer, and by Means of Deception. It's taken from the Mossad motto, by means of deception thou shalt wage war, is the motto of the Mossad. Deceiving, deceiving, deceiving. Absolutely in every way. So the enemies of this cadre of gangsters, the Muammar Gaddafis of the world, those who have the unmitigated gall to tell the Federal Reserve boys to go pound sand that they're going to have their own currency and it's going to be backed by gold and oil, and they start being wildly successful in their empowering of the people. No school debts, no college university debts, no mortgages. The government just says you have the basic rights to a house, a vehicle, and an education. And that's, the same people say, oh, that's socialist. No. I disagree with that. It's not socialism at all. It's empowering the common person. See, debt is what puts people in slavery chains.
Or when people are the government is telling you what to think, what to buy, what to say, what to do, for the benefit of very, very, very few people. Take it. I mean, I keep going back to Venezuela. I mean, they were going to hack off 3 zeros to solve their inflation problem, and they decided on 5 on their currency before they started printing anymore. That just doesn't sound like these people had microeconomics or macroeconomics 101. I don't get it. I don't understand why that is such a beautiful thing. These people have great natural resources. It's a beautiful country. The tourism there could be phenomenal right now, but right now their real currency are bags of flour and eggs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Terrible. So hopefully some of these people so proud to declare themselves socialists should really take a look at the current models of socialism working right now that aren't working at all.
Good. Yeah, you're right on. It's like our conversation with Ellen Brown a few weeks ago.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
she says, well, debt is okay, and the fact that it's a means of currency. Yeah, I get that. I really do. But you know, the bottom line is it's not being honest, because you're not telling people what the debt is being used for. They're not telling people, you know, again, you go back to the Green Book and Gaddafi's stand, you don't need debt. You just need honest resources and distribution of those resources to the people that own them. I had this conversation with a gentleman who was just come back in from a stint at the Bakken oil fields in North Dakota. He's just amazed at the amount of oil. They just, everywhere they sink a pipe, I mean, it's just a gusher. And the latest studies that he was reviewing, there's actually twice as much oil, he says, in the Bakken oil fields than there is in all of the Middle East combined. Every bit more. Now think about this, folks. You want to start a revolution in this country, think about this. Who in HE double toothpicks, who in the hell gives the government the right to give this resource to people who pull it out of the ground, put it into tankers, and ship it to Red China? That's what's happening. All of this massive oil is going into Costco shippers out of Hoboken, New Jersey, being shipped to China. Wait a minute. Where's the profit for we the people? You say, if you take a page out of Gaddafi's book and you nationalize the Bakken oil fields, every U.S. citizen, every man, woman, and child would be multi-millionaires with no debt, no student loans to repay, no home mortgage, and no vehicle mortgage. Now, Ellen Brown, I love you. You're a sweetheart. But see, if that's where you empower the people, okay? You don't need debt instruments. You just flat out don't need debt. The banks have got people convinced they need to be in debt because that's what makes the banks thrive. Hey, what makes the people thrive is utilization of our natural resources. And America is incredibly wealthy in natural resources. Venezuela has natural resources. See, corrupt politicians get involved and people suffer. Am I
absolutely.
Right? You know?
Yeah. No, and there's a small angle that you can look at, a little microcosm, a little tiny glimmer of hope in Alaska, where if you go up there, if you've stayed there for a certain period of time, you're actually paid money. You're paid a dividend of the oil that's coming through. And it's interesting to go up there because you do have the people and the banks that now are on the other side of it, and that's where they should be, because the car dealers, when you go up there and say in August, that's about when they're about to get their checks. The car dealers are saying, hey, you can just prove that you're about to get the check and, sign it over to us today as a down payment on your car, which is fine. If people want to buy a car using money, that's debt. But if you live in Alaska, you actually get paid to live there. You're entitled to oil revenue. And I think that's great. I don't view that as being socialism. I view that as being a well-run government.
It's right at a page out of Gaddafi's book. And speaking of Alaskan oil, do you remember all of the hoopla back in the 80s during the crisis, the oil crisis, about the Alaskan oil fields and the Great Alaska Pipeline and Atlantic Richfield Company, ARCO, bringing the oil down? Well, how come we don't see that oil at all in America. That Alaskan oil gets shipped in the pipeline, as I understand it, and is shipped with contracts to Japan. This what keeps the Japanese economy afloat. Well, I guess we all have to be, a global community. It takes a global village, right? It takes the world together. Well, that's globalism. That's a new world order. It really is. And you're right. You're right. I tip my hat off and I know the senators up there in Alaska that pushed that through, and there was a small fraction of what they really wanted to give out to the people. Arco's still making buku money. They're getting billions upon billions. So it's no skin off their nose to give a little bit to the Alaskans. But my golly, the good folks of North Dakota, they don't get nothing but dust in the wind from all those big trucks coming by on the dusty roads. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and you've got a few people who are, well, not a few, quite a few thousand people that are transplants that work up there in hostile conditions that are making very, very good money. But the people the property taxes aren't going down, the politicians aren't doing much with it. And what's interesting now is you take a look at the Exxon Valdez, the same legislation that allowed the essentially the state ownership of at least a portion of the revenue, or a tax, if you will, on what was going through the pipeline, allowed the citizens of Alaska, the same legislation allowed them to get a huge windfall from Exxon and the different oil companies involved through that settlement, which is multi-billion-dollar settlement. That got kicked into a fund that eventually got kicked down to the people. And so I think that's a good thing. Now, the attorneys, I happen to be friends with, I can mention his name. Delicio is an attorney who was involved in, he was one of the lead attorneys up in Alaska, involved in that. And it is one of the largest settlements that any single law firm has ever had. Maybe some pharmaceutical stuff, class action suits, but you've got so many different firms. This was one where one firm got hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, you can talk about attorneys day and night, but you want to get the best guy, and it's outrageous to pay a guy $100 million, but that's what these guys get to get that kind of settlement. So maybe edge down a little bit on, shave off a few $100 million for the people, some of the ridiculous attorney fees, but I don't see anything socialistic about that. If you pay a price to do business, and if you screw up, if you get a Captain Hazelwood in your midst, then you got to pay for it, but you don't pay the price that the environmentalists are telling you, because there's a flip side to this entire thing. There's another industry that is sucking off of the government teat that is interesting to think about, because if there were no environmental, or if the catastrophic conditions that they were describing weren't so catastrophic, they wouldn't be getting paid as much money next year. So they're always upping the numbers. And what happened was catastrophic, I would say, in Alaska, but certainly not to the degree that they were explaining, and certainly not commensurate with the amount of money they got. The salmon fishing year, the year after Valdez was not record, but certainly higher than the year before. So, and for anyone to try to explain to a jury that, hey, listen, oil pops out of the ground and it pops out of the ocean, out of the seabed. Why do you think we've got offshore oil drilling. It happens. So, nature does take care of oil. It produces oil. So it's not some sort of man-made evil chemical that, we just happen to put it in one particular place, and, nature will absorb it. So yeah, you go up and fish in any of those areas now. You're not going to see anything. There's no oil slick. There's no endangered species that weren't endangered before. So if everybody stepped back and kind of had a little more reality and a few more facts, I think, and some common sense to say, hey, maybe more of a nationalistic, but not nationalistic in the sense that the nation itself has become so divided that I think people should probably get down to a state level and say, well, we've got this, and our legislators, our senators, our representatives are going to be promoting. That's what we hired them for. That's what we voted them in for, was to take care of our interests and make sure that our taxes are lower and prosperity and our common moral beliefs are taken care of in this area. And I don't know. Globalism goes totally against that, and it puts it in control of people that, quite frankly, I think are quite stupid.
Well, indeed. I got to tell you, I remember doing radio shows of people that were in the know about the Bakken oil field. I had a couple of people on. This was when it was back in 2001 or 2. I had a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, send me emails and texts, and I'm just really making all this up. There couldn't possibly be that much oil under these the states going out, and there's no way. And I said, well, time will tell. Now, we're showing that this is absolutely true. It's everything I said back then was right. Coming out, and back then, you see, I was explaining, if there is that much oil, we should gather together as people. I should go to the area and start doing some rallies, getting people saying, this is our oil, not big oil's oil. This is our oil. We demand that we basically have royalty rights coming out, and not just the locals, but all America. And I said this concept back then, to the point when the first oil wells started going into place there, and the wildcatters were just unbelievably valuable wells. One of the listeners one of my good friends who was listened to me from day one, Mr. Thompson, was a commercial air pilot by trade. He flowed for some of the big airliners, but he was an on-call pilot for a group of I'll say the name now. They're now known as Flying J truck stops, but back when he was flying for them, they were under a different name, and they were looking to restructure some holdings, and they were able to leverage some things and buy a good chunk of oil property in North Dakota. Went down there. They already had their drilling rigs in eastern Utah, so they were in the process of bringing them down, and they were forming their own little banking operation. Now, I had actually met with these bankers that had heard me. My friend Mr. Thompson gave them a copy, cassette tape of my show about the concept. What they were going to do is basically sort of put it back to the people. Their idea was to use the oil, refine it locally. They had property they had purchased. They were going to put in a refinery, refine the oil, not ship it out, just keep it there, and then put the money out under their private label, as on a steep discount, basically putting. It's a monopoly breaker is what it was, an antitrust breaker, because their idea was, look, if we can keep unleaded gas and diesel fuel under $1.25 a gallon, no matter what, we'll make our profits like Ray Kroc did with selling a lot of hamburgers without not a lot of profit on it. That was their business model. Well, let me tell you, Major, that went over like the proverbial big turd in a punch bowl. The powers that be in big oil said this isn't going to happen. They put everything. You talk about skullduggery, and you talk about shady threats happening. And you know what? I got threats. I got some weird threats coming on about shut up about this concept. My buddy Rob, he was saying, man, I'm getting all kinds of threats myself, and so are these executives, but they're persevering. They're going to go and keep it going. So what happened was Rob was called in to fly them on their private jet into a high-level meeting in North Dakota. They concluded the meeting and Rob is an excellent pilot, very, very, very conscientious. Upon takeoff, they just received air and it exploded. The plane exploded, killing everybody.
Oh,
And that's the end of that story. That happened. That's my good friend Rob Thompson, my close friend. That's how big business does things. That's how, they couldn't even they couldn't let a sliver come in like Gaddafi couldn't have his success growing by leaps and bounds. Good heavens, they couldn't, the powers that be, these gangstas, these bangstas, would not possibly let Gaddafi feed the continent of Africa to bring prosperity and roll back the starving people. And that was what was happening when it's just amazing coincidence when Gaddafi opened the pipelines and was starting to do all of the planning of the fields and turning that all of Libya into another imperial valley times 10. Okay, the minute those started flowing and the water was put into irrigation was when the NATO planes and jets started doing their precision bombing and blew it all up. That's a fact. I got that from Libyan nationals. And we're supposed to be okay with that? I mean, how is that in any way a good thing? They recognize Libya's opposition as the de facto government. NATO starts attacking and the NATO pilots really just, they're just trained to take their coordinates and go, drop their rounds, and they don't ask questions. They're trained to do that. You can't blame the individual pilots, but you can blame the people at the top. And it's just wrong.
Yeah, it's rough business. I mean, the main tie with Gaddafi being so bad was a CIA agent with an unheard of amount, tons and tons of more plastic explosives than anyone ever thought could exist in one location. And some of them are still, it's so much that they're still tracing the Semtex back to that original sale, which happened way back in the late 1970s. So
right, and
apparently that stuff has a decent shelf life.
Ostrovsky points out in his book the strong evidence, they mean the smoking gun evidence, that the Pan Am flight over Lockerbie was a CIA Mossad. There was a reason for it. They had to kill some key witnesses on the plane. And he documents this in his book, I'm telling you. So it was after Ostrovsky printed his books, remember, that the sanctions were kind of lifted. The Libyan nationals who were convicted were suddenly given pardons. Remember all that story happening?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's why, because Ostrovsky was pointing out, it was wrongfully convicted. But then the people, as I talked about this on the radio show before in years past, people say, well, then why did Gaddafi agree to pay reparations to all the families of the victims? He explains that in private interviews. He said, I thought it would be okay to we have the ability to pay people. Rather, the cost of the sanctions was hurting the Libyan national people so much that it was a small price to pay kind of call it blackmail money to get the sanctions eased and get the products flowing into the Libyan people. He explained that, and that's would a good leader not want to do that? I mean,
that sounds truthful to me. It does. I don't know. I think it's interesting as to how they went after him with so much vigor, and then made a point. I think it's just, truth be told, the Clintons put an exclamation point on it and highlighted it and then put it in bold and then, put it on the back of a plane and flew it in banners all around by stealing his gold, or their gold, I should say. Crazy, absolutely crazy and blatant. Something, deeper research needs to go into that, a lot more. And I think people should start revisiting what they were doing there with a sound mind, without theft and thievery and global domination on their minds.
Yeah. As Hillary said so infamously, we came, we saw, he died, and thinks that's a funny joke.
Yeah.
Come on. You are Secretary of State, Hillary. You're not supposed to be plotting the killing and death of another leader. If we think Hitler was bad,
Mm-hmm.
The mindset is just stunning, and people don't get it. They really don't. Hey, we got just a few minutes to break. I was going to talk about this. I've been doing some deep philosophical thinking, and that's dangerous. Top of the hour, I'll give you my ideas of what constitutes success. I'm going to be turning 59 here this September. I'm getting to the big 660. I thought it was bad getting to 50. But now that I'm aging, I'm trying to age gracefully. I'm trying to weed out the gray in my hair a little bit, and I've got some ideas on what constitutes success. I'm going to give you some ideas on the top of the hour. I hope you don't laugh too hard. It's time to stop talking. We'll be back after these messages. Stay tuned.
Oh my.
landed. There's the echo. There's the jet airliner. I don't know what's happening in the studio. It's not good. I'm having all kinds of problems. Thanks for people texting me that have people that have my cell phone number and let me know they're having all kinds of problems. Hey John, we're having a terrible echo. It's just bouncing off like crazy. So let's try and get that taken care of. Must be a tremendous windstorm. Yeah. Somebody's mic is on. He says he tried. Yeah, whatever. I mean, whoever mic is on, it needs to be on. But that's mine. So up muted. I don't know. This is not working. We can't do the show with this amount of noise in the air. I don't know what it's coming through on live, but it's bad. It's bad. There's no.
On our side, mute everything, please.
Well, you're coming through loud and clear, and golly, there's no echo. Wow, something must have happened. I gotta say thank you to Dominic. He really does his best to keep this show going. It's crazy. I don't know where Mr. Rowe went tonight. I don't know if it would have mattered. The studio was offline. It was just dead. So we had. We were simulcasting just straight through the Goldwater at first, and thank you for that, Major. Yeah, but it's like anytime we start making inroads and starting to get a good listening audience built up, we seem to have all kinds of major problems. It's happened with this show many times over the years, with Genesis Communications Network, with Republic Broadcasting, with the MicroEffect, you name it. It started to, I got to say, when I was broadcasting live on live television or live radio, KSUB Radio, KDXU, my goodness, when we started getting a huge following, got nominated for the Peabody Award. My goodness, sometimes we were in the middle of a hot topic and we just completely be shut off the air. Just it goes completely blank. Compliments of our federal FCC boys. Don't tell me there's not censorship in this country. So we got Major back with us. Go ahead. You still with us, Major?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Absolutely. Censorship. Wow. Interesting. The government just asked Facebook to help them decrypt their FaceTime application, or Messenger, which is something. I don't mind the government trying to step in on Facebook, to tell you the truth, because there's so many terrible things happening over there. But now they're doing something that I actually oppose, which is asking them for keys to decrypt point-to-point communications, which they shouldn't have. They need a subpoena, summons, or warrant to do it. But we're getting into some really interesting territory with censorship. And of course, we had another Twitter purge going on this week. These folks are relentless, and the only way that I can describe how they're justifying it is because they're living in this microcosm in the Bay Area mostly, controlling all of this mass amount of communication. And if you don't agree with them, you don't work there. And that's how this whole thing starts. And somehow they've got it in their heads that they need control of everything. It's not enough to be a billionaire. It's not enough to have a profitable company. But again, you've got a lawsuit with Facebook again. This isn't the first one. It's the fifth one. This one's going to turn into a big class action lawsuit with them inflating their marketing numbers, telling people that they're selling advertising that that they're going to reach more people in a certain area than even live there. They're straight up lying, and that's against the law. You can get sued for that. You can go to jail for that. It's fraud. So hopefully the government takes a right stand in prosecuting these people, maybe breaking some of these companies up. Again, I'm not a big fan of antitrust, but in this particular case, wow. So yes, censorship is alive and well, and the people that are doing it are making money hand over fist.
And I would just add to that, in the Bay Area especially, you may not work for them. You may be put out, but if you try to be, if you're independently doing your own thing and still making some ripples, looks quite apparent, you can be put away in jail and made to be an absolute nutcase conspiracy wacko on the various news networks. I mean, it is what it is. Oh my goodness, yeah, I've had fallout from this already with Alex Studer. I mean, people that are kind of not understanding the situation. Well, good golly, Dr. Ott, how could you be associated with this terrorist nutcase Studer that's down there? I said, whoa. Whatever happened to innocent until proven guilty? I suggest you research directed energy weapons, microwave direction on targeted individuals. TIs is what they call them. What if Alex is a victim? What if he's been targeted? What if this could happen to anybody that steps out of line? Now that's sobering. That's sobering to me. Okay. Enough said. Let me tell you, I talked in the last hour about, at age 59 now, what my philosophy of success. And I'm not in Ogden. I don't mind telling and being transparent. I'm down in northern Arizona at my son's residence. I got these two beautiful grandsons. One that's just barely turning 4, and another just over a year now, 18 months, and he's just walking around. He's so cool. And these little blue-eyed, blonde, little tinge of ginger in their hair, these beautiful grandsons are such a joy. And, as you look back, it reminds me of when my sons were going through this and through this stage, and I sit there and I'm just reminiscing and philosophizing about life being worth living. It's just, I love Louis Armstrong's, what a beautiful world. I mean, you got to stop and smell the roses once in a while. You got to stop and just reflect. Take some time to go hiking and take some time just to look at God's creation. It's wonderful to do that. Here's what I came up with, and I'm looking forward to the next 30 to 40 years, but in some ways, knowing what's happening now, I'm having to rethink as we revert back. I look at my granddaughter who's 4 years old. We know what the definition of success in a 4-year-old's life is, Major?
No, I don't.
Well, if you had a grandson, or even kids, you'd understand. It's when you start not having to pay for Pampers, and they keep their panties or their big boy underwear dry and clean. The definition of success in every measure of the world of the 4-year-old's world is they just don't pee in their pants. I mean, that's
simple enough.
It's simple, but it's in this. My little 4-year-old grandson here, he's been bribed. If he keeps his pants dry, he gets these special little eggs. They're so cool. I mean, whoever made these is a genius. You put them in water, and over about 72 hours, they start to swell, absorb the water, and they start to crack. And guess what's inside of these eggs? a dinosaur. I mean, it's a dinosaur baby, and this dinosaur soaks in the water and grows and grows and grows. It's a cool thing. This kid is so excited. I'm going to keep my pants dry because I get to have dinosaur eggs. I mean, it's working like, I mean, that's success in a 4-year-old's world. So I got
capitalism too. I like that.
well,
That's smart.
it's rewarding, man. You know, it's like, gosh, I want to do it. I want to do it. I want to do it. Well, guess what? Success is at age 12. You know, I've talked to kids in that age bracket at 12 years old, and you know what? They're more concerned about anything else. It's not about what they want to do in school or their extracurricular activities. The success and definition of a 12-year-old, I submit, is that they have friends, that they're liked. They're in that age where acceptance of their peers is so very important. That's why, you know, why this schools focus so much on anti-bullying. Everybody has to get along, and because the psyche, the mindset of a 12-year-old is, I gotta have friends. You with me?
Yeah, I mean, at my age, yeah, that was really important. I was lucky that I didn't take it too hard when I was a kid. That I had a lazy eye, and for a while I had to wear a patch over my eye, and for some reason I just kind of turned it around, and it wasn't a big deal. So I could have gotten a lot worse than I did for that. Wearing a patch over a good eye and not being able to see out of the other. That's, you know, they do that so you're not cross-eyed. But yeah, it's really important. But I think parenting is the key thing there. Is you know, the parents need to not dictate, but kind of guide your children as to what kind of kids they should be hanging out with, and make friends in that area of people that aren't going to be, you know, doing terrible things.
Yeah, and there's a reason why I'm sagging into this, because you look at what's happening in the Pizzagate scandal, the abuse, the ritual abuse of these little ones. I mean, this whole philosophy of success goes out the window because they're totally robbed of all of this, and society is such that you know we can observe this happening in children, that they just, as they develop, as their central nervous system starts to connect and their synapse of their brain starts to connect, they define who they are. And so we get 5 years later, at age 17, a national poll put out a teenage 16 to 17 years old, the most important thing for success that they have arrived is they've passed the driver's test and they are now a licensed driver. And the most important thing in their life is being able to take responsibility for a set of wheels. That's kind of where we are, and it's right for that age bracket. That's their label of success, right? They're not thinking so much about getting into Harvard or Yale or Stanford, not at that point. But that comes later. So we see the establishment is now setting the idea of success in people at 30 somethings, 35-year-olds. I look back at when I was 35, man, it was all about making and accumulating money. That's equivalent to success. Success is how much money, how many toys you can accumulate, right? And it doesn't really change that much at age 50. You know, how you just got to be, the success is equivalent with the health of your bank account or lack thereof. I mean, that's, if you were to be on Family Feud and ask that question, I dare say that 98% of men age 50 would say what's success, and they would say, you know, it's your money in your bank account. Well, what seems to happen, this is where the philosophy comes in. As I get over that hump and getting to 60, I'm talking more and more to people age 70 and looking at national polls. Do you know what what many 70-year-olds think success is now, Major?
Let me guess. Probably not their bank account.
Right. Believe it or not, it's
being alive. Maybe health.
It's having a driver's license without restriction.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So all of these things go in reverse. I got you now.
At age 75, success is defined that they have friends that are still living. We're laughing about this, but it's the most important thing in 75-year-olds. They want to have friends that they can still relate to, because every day they wake up and there's a friend or two that's now had a stroke or in the hospital or in the obituaries. I mean, and this was so funny. I had to laugh at this because, you know, I'm 59 and I have AARP magazines coming. Oh, and I hate to say it. You know, all the advertisements are for they've done this. This is polling at age 80. You know what success is in most people's mind?
Not peeing your pants.
You're right on. It's not peeing in your pants. Not having to wear Depends undergarments. That's success.
Okay. Oh my Lord. Well, there are exceptions, Dr. True. There are exceptions. Wow. We did something a little bit nutty day before yesterday. I think I sent you a video. I was in Macau, and we went over there to. We met these guys. It's a short story. I met these guys in Sentosa, in Singapore. Just asked them to use their tower. They had this big tower they were using to bungee jump off of, and they were really nice people. AJ Hackett is the name of the outfit, and so they were super nice. And I decided that we would jump off of that, and that's the smallest one that they got. And they said, well, we got another one over in Macau, which is the world's largest. And so anyway, when we were getting ready to do this, I asked the gal that was rigging me up with the harness and everything, you know, what's the oldest person that you've jumped? And this guy was 85 years old and jumped. You're talking about 800 feet of, close to 800 feet of vertical drop. You get to almost terminal velocity, and yeah, there is the idea of terminal there, but you know, there are people that are beyond the age you're talking about that are doing things like that you really just have to tip your hat to.
Well, I'm getting old. I forgot to push the unmute button. You're right. I see that. You know, I hope that's me. And we with Philip last week, we made the joke and laughed a little bit about me. I'm 6'7", 290 pounds. I mean, I don't think that I want to jump and stretch that cord and just go all the way down. I still go into the ground stretching that cord. That's too much weight. Wow, I can just see that happen. The rebounding would be pretty bad.
No, it'd be awesome. It'd be awesome. They'd rig you up. It's a science, and it really is just this. You're visiting death and it really is the blackest, most terrifying feeling. You know, we did ours at night, and there was the tower was closed for 4 days, and we finally were able to get up there, and it was at night. And when you go over those first couple of seconds, it is the darkest, most terrifying feeling I've ever felt in my entire life. And you do it on purpose, but it's replaced with this rebound. And I couldn't stop laughing. I was just hysterically laughing. And the first thing that you want to do when they get you down on the ground is to go back up and do it again. It's the most amazing thing. I recommend it for anyone. I really do. It's Yeah. That's in Macau Tower. Macau Tower. It's the tallest bungee jump in the world, and it's not a very physically. It's not a harsh thing at all. It's all in your head, most of it. You only get to about 3 Gs, and you can do that in your car by braking. So, yeah, it's a mental thing, and yeah, if anyone wants to do it, I mean, I know we shouldn't pitch things, but I mean, these guys are just great. I have to say, if you're going to do it, you have to do with the people that invented it. Great guys from New Zealand. So anyway, that's my little plug for them.
So how many times did you go off the jump?
We went once that night. They were closed for 4 days because the whole tower was closed for 4 days because of a typhoon. So we got stuck there and got to wander around Macau, and oh man, there is a segue into politics on this, in that this is China, and yet there's no immigration, there's no customs. When you go to get a cell phone, a SIM card for internet access for data, every other place, Singapore, Hong Kong, you have to have a passport, and there you don't. They obviously, their drop in casino revenue is higher than Vegas, so it's the largest gaming epicenter in the world. So you've got all of that, but you have this Portuguese colonial foundation with kind of a Singaporeese Chinese sensibility, and the efficiency of having a ton of very, very well-trained, beautiful, smiling people that are brought in, a lot of them from the Philippines, to support all of these industries. And it's just an incredible place to be. I'm definitely going back. And the next jump we're going to do is going to be during the day, and I think it'll be easier. But yeah, and the Portuguese food, the food is everywhere. All the food is incredible. So, yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
But here's a small area of China that it's Chinese, but it's got this weird feel, and the topography is much like San Francisco, except instead of Victorians, you have colonial architecture. And it's still the Chinese government that is there, that is overseeing the entire thing. But there's a perfect example of a state that kind of made it out on its own and kept its culture. And it's a wonderful place. It really is. It's beautiful. So yeah, Macau, definitely. And if you go, jump, jump, do it. Don't think about it. Just do it. Anyway, yeah, it's a very eye-opening situation where you think of China being this domineering type of government, but they have these offshoots, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Macau, where, man, why, we have that in the United States. Let's try to keep it. Let's try to keep that. We have certain cultures in the South, and San Francisco's got their own thing going, and God knows what path they're on, but let them do it, as far as I'm concerned. But localize your government, just like we were talking about, and be responsible about it. And people will find out after 5 or 10 years whether or not it works.
Well, guess what? We just got a little issue from Philip Fairbanks. Phil just, should we razz him about this? I mean, the show's been on for an hour and a half, and Philip just says he just got up. I mean.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I think he might have rolled over on his phone.
Are you with us, Philip? I guess He's not hooked in yet. That's what it shows on the screen that he's hooked in. It's Dominic Philip Fairbanks, but Philip says, "Sorry, was up late. Just got up. Just got Skype queued up. So it's not too late." I said, "Sure, come on and say hello," but it's not happening. Dominic is typing. He's adding him now. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Philip, are you?
Phil did jump off of AJ Hackett's tower in Sentosa, which is their smallest one, and it was a 10-year-old kid, a friend of his sister's, I think, that goaded him into it. I wouldn't do it. You don't, like, when you're with people, you don't want to peer pressure anyone into doing something like that. But he got online, said that I was doing it, and a 10-year-old kid, said, "Oh, you need to do it." So he did. So when we go to Macau, Phil is coming. I want to see that video. Oh, wow.
Well,
but, that'll be great if you could hop on. Anyway, that's my little report from Macau, and I do have some video from one of our executives that I went with, Toby, and me. We both have video of us jumping off, and it's when you look at it, it's why would you do that? Why? But we did. I'll share that with you once we get it up and running.
Sounds fun. Hey. Well, Philip was on for a second, dropped off. He's still having problems with the queue getting on. That's fine. The queue, not queue the QAnon. Oh, I want to share this with you and the listeners. This is a little ditty that you remember the columnist Abigail Van Buren, who did Dear Abby. I mean, was so successful as a syndicated columnist for so many papers. And there's no more Dear Abby anymore, right? She put together this little booklet of some of the questions that she flat out couldn't answer, and these are so good. I wanted to see if you have answers to this. Maybe we can do a little Dear Abby the next half an hour. I guess Philip is trying to type a message in here, but this is kind of fun. So there's actually 6 things that Abby said that she just could not answer, and these are funny ones. Here's the first one. Dear Abby, what can I do about all the sex, nudity, language, and violence on my VCR? I mean, and these people are these people are probably registered Democrats. I don't know, but she just.
That's a VCR still blinking 12 at that point, though.
You know, I had to say this. I actually made an offer back. This is back when DVDs came out. I put this out as a joke. I thought people would laugh at it, but people took it seriously. They called up and wanted to order because I had a special offer on a special DVD rewind machine. They were stuck in VCR. Oh, am I dating myself now? I mean, VCR. I mean, I got 8-track tape collection still. That shows you,
Did the FTC get after you?
Well, I put it on my blog, and people actually said, "I'll take 10." It's like,
oh no.
It was only $79 for the unit.
Well, that's a good way to check your demographic.
Dear Abby, I have a man I never could trust. He cheats so much. I'm not even sure this baby I'm carrying is his. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. These people, these Democrats, they live among us. I swear, we got to give people signs to put on the back of on their bags saying, "I'm a Democrat and I vote." We got to have warning labels for these folks.
Maybe we should chip them. RFID, like you know what I mean.
Dear Abby, our son is taking judo. Why would a boy who was raised in a good Christian home turn against his own?
Is he
Huh?
injecting it or smoking it?
No. Dear Abby, come on. Abigail Van Buren. Gotta love her. Dear Abby, you told some woman whose husband had lost all interest in sex to send him to a doctor. Well, my husband has lost all interest in sex years ago, and he is a doctor. I think that was signed Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
No, it was Nancy Pelosi. That was Nancy Pelosi. So
Or Maxine Waters, maybe.
Maxine Waters. These are actual letters that she received. How could you not answer that? I mean, come on. Dear Abby, I suspected that my husband had been fooling around, and when I finally got enough courage and confronted him with the evidence, he denied everything and said it would never happen again.
Okay.
How can you answer this if you're dear Abby? Abigail, how could you even say? I would just say, keep attending the Democratic conventions. You need some help there. And this final one is probably the best. Dear Abby, my mother's mean and short-tempered. Is she going through her mental pause? They walk among us. They do. They walk among us, man.
Oh my Lord! Wow. I don't know. I mean, you have to respect her job. I mean, that's got to be what, tens of thousands, if not hundreds. How many years was she doing this?
I think 40 years, if I'm not mistaken. 4 decades. My goodness,
Wow.
Very successful and timely. I mean, she had some great advice and so down to earth. But of course, there were things like this that she just couldn't even answer or print because she had probably been taken off syndication list for that. I'm sorry. And speaking of philosophy, I'm sorry. I don't get why people like cats. I'm a dog guy. I've always had a hunting dog. I've trained well, and I've had a couple of Brittany Spaniels. I've had a Springer Spaniel. I now have this just wonderful duck dog, yellow lab that's just so sweet and wonderful. And I get why dogs have a thing. They want to take the cat out. I get that. So I hope I don't offend anybody here. But you know what? If I do offend people, that's just the way. I just want to know why. I was sitting at a vet's office took my dog in for her shots, and there were 2 ladies with their cats in their little, pet containers. And I'm sorry, I was philosophizing too much with them. I asked the one woman, I says, why do you love this cat? What's so good about this cat? What do you do? And she looked at me and she says, well, it's just my cat. I love it. I said, I says, are you married? No, I'm single. Both women were single. I says, let me tell you my and I probably shouldn't small talk with women with cats in in the vet's waiting room, but I did anyway.
Okay.
I said, let me tell you my observations of cats. They don't bond. They're independent. My dog bonds with them. My dog will die for me. But cats, no, they're independent. They don't listen, right? And both the women said, yeah. They don't come in when you call them. You can't whistle a cat in, can you? Hey, kitty, 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 kitty. They look at you like, screw you, and walk away, right? They love, especially the variety, the male cats, they love to stay out all night. And when they do come home, all they want to do is go in and sleep, right? I says, in other words, every quality the women absolutely hate in a man, they love in a cat. Why is that?
It's really good.
They looked at me like, looks. That's probably why they never married her. If they had married, they probably had divorced. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, fetching, playing with cats. I mean, the only thing it is an attribute if you're dating. You probably shouldn't be dating a woman with a cat, but if you happen across one, it's always good to get along with animals in general, and so that would be the only reason to get along with cats, is because the cat is there to test the new boyfriend. If the cat jumps on your lap, or how you react to whatever it is. But personally, I mean, if you can't go duck hunting with it, you probably shouldn't be feeding it and bringing it into your home and loving it. So, I mean, that includes dogs. Okay.
I agree. I mean, I don't get it. I know there's millions and millions of cat lovers out there, and cat food companies are making fortunes. I'm sorry, I don't get it. I don't see it. Maybe it's because I'm highly allergic to them. I'm highly allergic to them too. Like my eyes swell up. I start sneezing.
Yeah. You know what they just had though? They've got dog TV. Have you heard of this?
I have. Yeah.
And it's like $10 a month, and I'm sure they're making huge amounts of money off of this, and it's a great idea. I applaud the people that came up with the idea. But so my mom has dog TV. She's got a Chesapeake Bay Retriever.
A Chessie. Okay. Oh, a Chessie. Good.
Yeah, my family's had Chessies our whole lives, and some of them hunt, some of them don't, but they're there and they're intimidating as well. So they do perform a service as far as security. A little temperamental, and they get dirty, and they love water. But nonetheless, they don't watch TV. they don't watch TV. It's for the owner, who loves their dog, to get, be persuaded into, when they leave the house, to turn the TV on. And now, then again, I don't think that anybody that owns a dog that should be owned, should be keeping it inside. You need at least an acre, or a good size area to keep your dog, and maybe 2 of them, so that they can play around together when you're gone. But anyway, this dog TV, of course, is and I'd buy stock in the company. I need to look this up. I just heard about it the other day. So it's amazing what people do for their animals. Amazing what airlines are allowing on. I guess you can get these therapy pets, and people are bringing pigs and geese and all sorts of weird animals on these planes. Because they have, they've been diagnosed with something. I don't want to play that down, but I think people are taking advantage of that. Getting people to tag them, because getting a psychiatrist to tag them, and then getting someone else, including an airline, to allow the pet to come along with them. But yeah, pigs and I don't know if they're going to start. I mean, what's the next thing they're going to do? Miniature ponies. I'm not sure, but yeah, there are some animals that serve a purpose, and have opinion on that, and they could get offended saying.
Well, I don't know,
I'm with you on this, Drew.
my yellow lab is maybe a little strange, but she does watch TV with me. She sits on my feet and watches, and I like to, I like the outdoor channel. I like to see the hunting shows, and I gotta admit, I like watching Wicked Tuna, and every time the Ott boat, the hot tuna boat, gets a hookup, their big the two Rottweilers are barking, and boy, my dog just comes to attention, runs to the screen and watches so intently to see what's going on with those dogs and that big fish. It's kind of fun to watch. She gets it. she when she was a puppy, she would see it and she'd go around to the back of the screen and look up like, where's it? How am I? She couldn't figure out where they were coming from. She thought they were hiding in the screen somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's really it's funny to see the first the new thing. Like, for example, I took I had two golden retrievers in Colorado, and we took them over to Telluride, and there's a resort over there that allows a really nice place that allows them in the hotel. I mean, dog-friendly hotels are really cool, and so this was their first time in an elevator, and they both went in, okay, and
Yeah.
and they kind of looked like maybe something was going on. But when the door opened, Charles, who wasn't as smart as his sister, he just ran out and kind of looked around. Annie was just terrified. Because the door opened and there was something totally different. Never experienced that entire thing. And so it's really amazing to kind of relive, if you're paying attention to your dog, that whole thing. And it took us a while to get her out of that elevator. And then, in fact, we had to put her back in, take her down to where she was before, and then put her back up. And then she finally got it and thought that it was funny. So, yeah, pretty amazing. Yeah,
They're smart animals.
Cats do.
I don't think they even know themselves. I shouldn't say that. That just the look in a cat's eye is like, you think you got me figured out. No, I am so independent. I am my own person.
Well, grab yourself a laser pointer or a small remote control helicopter, and then that'll even things out in that whole realm of figuring things out. And
yeah, that's attitude. I've done that, and they wanted to turn me into the Humane Society for Cruelty to Cats. I mean, flipping those cats will flip out trying to grab that laser pointer. Well, I had this one friend who was just absolute. I think he was a little bit psycho. He was we were out walking one time, and he looks up, and there's this perfectly docile Siamese cat on this porch as we wanted to talk to these people, and it was minding its own business, and the cat looked like something out of Disney, just sitting there, just sleepy. Its tail was flicking back and forth. And my deranged friend says, "You ever heard of a Chinese siren?" I said, "What?" Chinese siren. He grabs that innocent little Siamese cat and by the tail and swings it around his head, and all I heard is wee, wee, wee. That was absolutely me. But the closest
Did
thing
the cat like it? Please tell me the cat liked it.
I don't know because it went over the hedge. She chucked it over the hedge and it scampered out of there. But there's a YouTube video
no.
I had to laugh where a cat was trying to catch something on he got somehow stuck on a ceiling fan, and I mean that's the same noise. The cat just when a cat screams, it's pretty ear pitching. I don't know. Maybe that's why people like cats. I don't know. They like to have the warning sirens come up sometimes. I don't know.
You're gonna get a call from the ASPCA. You thought you had enough enemies now.
Well, I'm just trying to philosophize it. Okay, I'm trying to figure it out, and maybe that somebody can enlighten me. But these two sweet women there in the vet's office. Man, I don't know if they knew each other or not, but both of them looked at me like looks could kill, you know. But I mean, they couldn't rebut what I said. Everything that's a woman hates in a man, that's a cat. Why do women like cats?
Well, women who are typically single have more and more cats, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Hey, that's right. You're right. They have like 100 of them sometimes. I mean, it's like, oh, good heavens. It must be an awfully slow news night tonight. And but you know, next week I will have to be gone. I can't do the show. So we talked about this before. You're more than welcome to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It'd be an honor. It would be my honor.
Run with the show. Hopefully the studio will be there. Dominic may have problems himself. He might be traveling. If so, I'm sure you can handle somehow. You know, hooking in. I'm not smart enough to figure that all that. I'll mess it up royally if I did it by myself. But you and the Goldwater can figure out ahead of time how to get on the simulcast. Okay.
We'll do a test run in the studio on Tuesday.
Perfect. So yeah, just let me know how it goes. If you know, and Dominic, hats off to you. Big shout out. He's always there. Dominic has been the man for so long, a decade or so, just making sure this show goes on, and a good cheerleader. I'm sorry we're talking about things that we normally don't talk about, but I'm trying to think about life. I'm trying to philosophize about life. I really am. Go to my blog, ladies and gentlemen. It's simply atruot.com, and it's a story behind the story on my personal blog. I just posted a new post today concerning the story of this 8-year-old boy who I've known since he was 2. Followed his story here in Utah. Amazing. He was diagnosed with acute lymphomic leukemia, ALL, was given literally a day or so to live. It was that bad. And his story of how he, went against the prevailing tide and went in and got large doses of CBD, cannabinoid marijuana, and how he's living today. He's a wonderful story. I wanted to have him and his mom on the show. We'll probably do that soon. They kind of want to still fly under the radar. He's 8 years old now, living his success of life, trying to get friends, being a precocious 8-year-old in every way, free of leukemia, and yet he was literally both feet in the grave. They were planning his funeral. I'm telling you, it's an incredible story. The CBD is the good stuff. It's the good compounds of medicinal marijuana. The THC is not so good. It makes you relax and makes you high. It's hallucinogenic, but there's some negative things to that. So CBD oil is great. We'll talk about that here in the future more and more. So that's where we're at, Major. Golly, it's been great just chatting with you, having some fun tonight. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And we'll have to get some more updates on Alex as well. I haven't had anything over here. Obviously, mail is a little bit slow getting to me on the other side of the earth, but we certainly have not forgotten about him. and we'll be revisiting the entire thing on the next show. Hopefully, everybody will have more information. And like I said, I've been kind of stuck moving around, but we're going to never forget that our good friend is under complete duress, and some very serious questions need to be answered regarding this situation. So it's not going to stop.
Yes, I have put out feelers. Last week we had Dr. Evangelista. I've talked to Dr. Evangelista in depth about Alex's situation. Dr. Evangelista has got a wide web of contacts, and this is beyond strange. When you can't get anything on what's going on, when the public defender's office is silent as the grave over this, really, and not communicating, it just doesn't bode well. It seems very, very strange. I'm used to, in Utah here, I actually do a prison ministry on Sundays. I go in to our local Ogden jail, and we have some incredible talks with the inmates there, and I know the jail situation. You just don't have such a blackout of information on a person as I'm getting here with this. So it's a problem. And folks, yeah, we're just about out of time, and we had problems with the studio coming on. We apologize for that. Dominic was able to persevere and get us through. But again, Revolution Radio is simply run by donations, and that's it. There's no corporate sponsorships. The survival of the station depends on donations from you, the listening audience. So we appreciate anything and everything you can pass your way, and along with the Goldwater, again, the Simulcast, amazing network that's growing by leaps and bounds, Major, and that's a big kudo to you on that. We want you, wish you the best of luck in your continued growth. A bastion of truth outside of the United States. It's amazing.
Well, that's what we're here for, Dr. True. It's a real honor to be with you.
So, well, if you have anything you want to write to dear Trudy or dear Major Abby, I don't know. Abby's in the studio. There, maybe she can take up the pen and start giving advice. And dear Abby and Goldwater, I don't know. We need some common sense grounding, dear Abigail Van Buren's around. We miss her. We miss them. I miss them. And if you have a cat, well, give it a kiss, give it a big hug. I mean, give it a big hug, a big squeeze. Squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. See what happens. I hug my dog, and she just loves me back. She thinks it's a fun game. I'm a dog lover. I can't say. Try squeezing a cat and see. You might have to make chocolate chip cookies with what comes out. I don't know. That's mean. I'm sorry. I'm going to heck for that one, dog. and we'll keep Alex Studer in our prayers and wish him the best. I just feel helpless and I don't know what else to do for and on his behalf. But leave it to God is all I can do really at this point. So wish him the best. Anything else you want to say as we take it out?
Just I'm really honored to have you ask me to host tomorrow, and I hope I do you proud.
Well, tomorrow we'll be kind of lonely, but next week.
Sorry. Next week, yeah.
I'm sure you'll do
looking
fine.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, next week, and I appreciate it. We'll have something fun, but also extremely informative, and we're going to be barreling it down, really barreling down, talking about Q and a number of other issues that we've been researching deeply here at the Goldwater. So yeah, we'll proudly carry the torch for a quarter mile.
Fantastic. Appreciate you all the work that you do, and I want to meet you in person one of these days. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Oh golly, yeah. It's just it's been fun to reminisce a little bit about success, what happens at age 4, and what happens at age 80. It's kind of the same thing. It is what it is. We're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. You have a great weekend. Next week, Major Burdock, I'm sure we'll have a fantastic show. Thanks for covering that. See you in 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. Good. Be well. Thanks again, Dominique, for all your help. Appreciate it so much.
Stage 4.
Okay, guys, we're clear.
What happens at age 80? It's kind of the same thing. It is what it is.
Okay, I shut out everything. We're done.